So it's official that Tank Davis versus Jake Paul has been cancelled and is not taking place in November. MVP Promotions has said that they're looking for Jake Paul to fight in December, but they're looking for a new opponent. And according to the Insider Ring Show, Andre Ward has been asked. Andre Ward has been asked for his availability to fight Jake Paul in December. Now, if that fight gets made, that's a really interesting fight because Andre Ward is an amazing boxer. He's a true great of the sport. Retired undefeated, was world champion at super middleweight, world champion at light heavyweight, fought a lot of big names at super middleweight, and of course fought the number one guy at light heavyweight at the time, who was Sergey Kovalev, right? And this was a prime Kovalev that Andre Ward fought. This was Kovalev at the peak of his powers. Following the Andre Ward fights, Kovalev his career would start to take, a bit of a decline after that. But nonetheless, at this time, Kovalev was a world beater. And this was seen as a 50-50 fight going into it. If anything, Andre Ward might have even been a bit of an underdog. I don't know. I'm not going to go back to the live odds at the time, but I could imagine that fight being very close on the bookies. And ultimately, it was a fight that was very tightly close contested, where it was over the 12 rounds. A lot of people think Kovalev won those fights. The first one in particular, and I think a lot of people think Kovalev has an argument to have won both fights. Of course, the history books will show that Andre Ward boxed good enough to win enough rounds to win the fights. But of course, he retired after that, and that was at light heavyweight as well. I imagine, due to the short notice, the exhibition fight between Andre Ward and Jake Paul, if it got made, would still be at heavyweight. Not still, but would be at heavyweight, because even though Andre Ward doesn't look huge, and he's not a huge guy, even at light heavyweight, he wasn't the biggest. But, making under 200 pounds when you've not fought in that long on that short notice, I don't think is probably a great idea now. Andre Ward looks like he keeps himself in pretty decent shape, but we don't know. We're not on the scales with him. We don't see the life he lives outside of the ring. We just don't know. So if he's going to take that fight on such short notice, I would imagine it would be in December. And of course, Andre Ward is by far, and it's not even close, is by far the best boxer Jake Paul would have ever fought. In terms of the pure technical side of boxing, Andre Ward far exceeds Gervonta Davis in terms of technical ability. Far exceeds Anderson Silva, Nate Diaz, Chavez Jr., far exceeds that. So, yeah, I would be curious to see that fight get made. I would be excited. Probably, I would be more excited for this fight than Francis. Now, Francis is more likely to knock Jake Paul out, but he's also more likely to get stopped Actually, I wouldn't even say he's more likely to get stopped, because Andre Ward's a guy who's not been in the ring for a long time, but defensively, he's a lot better than Francis, meaning, from a defensive point of view, he's less likely to get stopped because he's just got a better grasp on the boxing fundamentals because he's such a good boxer. But that was a post that I just thought that was really interesting and really had me thinking. And, Andre Ward is, in my opinion, still, even now, more than a good enough boxer to get a decision win over Jake Paul. Can he stop Jake Paul? I don't know. You've never really seen Jake Paul in real trouble, like real trouble, which means maybe, he can take a shot, maybe he's got a bit of a chin. Also, he's not really fought anyone good enough to be able to set him up for a trap and land on him cleanly like that. Anderson was good, but, ultimately, come on. Ultimately, there's levels to this, right? But yeah, I would be curious to know what you guys think of this fight, though, honestly, because there's a lot of moving parts here, and I think Andre Ward's good enough to create a game plan, and has enough boxing knowledge, and when he's under the bright lights, on top of his head, when he's on his feet, he's got enough to manoeuvre a 12-rounder. It probably wouldn't be a 12-rounder, manoeuvre like a 10-rounder against Jake Paul. I think he could. I could see him losing, though. And that's the weirdest part, because Jake Paul is going to be a lot bigger than Andre Ward. He's going to be, he's younger, probably got the better gas tank, but we'll see, man. Let me know what you guys think of the fight in the comments below. And another episode of the Seth Solo Cyclist in the bag, and I'm out. Peace.